Well, so I started with the Allied placement, and I think they're done. According to the rule set I have, they get no replacements, or no supply points in December. Now, in the newer edition of the rule, they've changed that, but it's very specific in this. You know, I mean, they actually remind you here, note that there are no December 1914 supply points for Great Britain. The new edition changes that, and it kind of phases supplies in during the December turn, probably because the situation. I looked at it, and it looks like the whole replacement and reinforcement thing is completely different. I'd have to reread it and see. This isn't a matter of changing one line here and there on the rules. It's not an errata type of thing. It's a living rules in the sense that, well, they're alive and they completely change. And that's why probably there is no change log. You really have to have that whole rule book. I don't like that trend in gaming in general. I'm going to play with the rules I have. Where I have a question, where I feel like something needs to be looked up and clarified, I'll look in those rules. But here, I looked at this and I said, I can't change that much in a rule book. You know, I have to start. This is a totally new edition of the game that's the online version as far as I'm concerned. And, you know, I just can't cope with that kind of thing. And again, I have to say, you probably want to hold off and wait until they reprint this, because obviously game balance, etc. The situation that I'm in with the Allies not having any supplies is part of the issue. They get a trickle of supplies in, but they also get less from now on in the new rules. So it's like avoids them having the deep depth of a problem in December, but also will give them a few more points. I didn't look at how the Germans are. They probably have more too, just because it's not going to make too big a difference, to tell you the truth, because both armies will run through whatever they have, you know. So however it's balanced or whatever, maybe they tweaked it a little bit, got a little bit more realism. But overall, I don't think it's going to make much difference. Anyway, I'm playing with what the printed rules that come in the game are, as much as I can. Where I cannot, I will look things up. Like with the Belgians, where I looked it up and said, okay, yeah, it's ridiculous, but I'm kind of hybriding it anyway because it's too late. Alright, I guess that's it. I mean, the French didn't really do anything. One thing that's kind of neat is taking a look at it from this side. Just watching, you know, the perspective's just so different when you change the board. Just watching that curve of the front. That's so impressive to me to look at, that big, I don't know. It doesn't look the same here to me. It looks, I don't know, like a normal, just like a war game. But when I see it from this angle, which is, you know, the angle that I see, say, on a map or something, it's just so different. Just looks like this line of blue and gray running along each other, really defining the front in a nice way. You look from over here at the German side, and again, it looks like a war game. This time the Germans made a number of attacks. Along the line here, 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 and here, and in all cases they were conserving supply. I think they may have spent a couple of points on this attack over here. They got nowhere and actually suffered worse losses. It could be the tide is turning a little bit. It's still tough. I think the French just kind of got lucky this turn in terms of die rolls. A lot of the die rolls went against the Germans badly, but that's bound to happen at some point or another, and it may just give the French the impetus to be able to continue onward. There are weak spots, you know, places like this where I look at it and say, wow, the Germans should really remove that fort, and then they could perhaps start pinching this off. It's tough, though. You've got your commitment to your one offensive over here, and if you stop that and go after another entrenched position with fortifications, etc., it's this whole change of things, and you have to shift all your supplies over there. The supplies have so far just been totally concentrated on my bulge right now, and that sounds kind of gross. Anyway, that's where we are. You know, onto the French repositioning for all this. Oh man, I noticed withdrawals December 1st for the Germans. Since I only had replacement points coming in, I had no indication that I had to go look in the rule book there. I hadn't put any kind of marker to indicate, yeah, they're withdrawing. I was being kind of lazy. Well, that means I've gotten 2 attacks in with those extra units. Plus, I started looking for them, and boy, is that a bitch. I got to hunt through everything to find these guys. Now, conceivably, I could pull out units that aren't those instead of them, but that kind of causes problems, because then when those units re-enter, which they may or may not do, there's no way of knowing that, there's no easy way of getting them. The game needs some play aids to handle that. It really does. It needs some little holding boxes for the withdrawn units if they come back. You know, hey, if you're withdrawing the 8ES, it goes on the board here until it comes back in, so that you can kind of remind you. Without that kind of, and it's easy enough to make those, but I haven't done it because, you know, I haven't experienced this before with this game, so it's not really, you know, an easy situation. Anyway, in many, many ways, I'm beginning to think that this is a game which appeals a lot more if you have, like, a vassal type situation, the game, the engine vassal, in order to run your game off of, because I'm sure it has all kind of features built in to take care of stuff. You don't have to hunt through all the pieces and everything. Setting up all that all becomes much, much easier with these big games. Unfortunately for me, that's not what I enjoy doing. I want to play on a board. I've played games with a lot of pieces, big setups, etc. I don't know if I've had one where I had to hunt down specific units where I don't have some kind of indication where they are. This is just such a broad front with so much movement, etc., that it's kind of tricky. Obviously, again, pulling the wrong pieces out would be an acceptable and probably a preferable option. But then when I can't find them in my counter mix, what do? You know, got to try to guess what I'm supposed to bring in or whatever. Gonna be painful. Too much work. I've just gone to pulling the number counters out, and you know, honestly, if I've got foreign units or whatever, they're gonna get screwed over. I'm not gonna know, because if I see something that says a 7-4, I'm not gonna know if it's the proper unit or not anymore. That's a problem with this situation. There's not the distinguishment on here of what type, what country, what nationality of the various things there are. Is that a big deal for the Germans? Not terribly, but it is for the Allies. They have a lot of constituent country forces. Withdrawing one of them changes the nature of the game, perhaps. I don't know. Only slightly. But anyway, it's just not worth the headache. You know, it's not worth the headache of tracking that stuff down for this. Just the hell with it. I'll put what I can out. I'll just try to get the numbers kind of right and hope for the best. It's not like I haven't made some major mistakes or that there haven't been some big differences anyway on the line. And hey, I cheated and stayed in for 2 extra turns there with those units. What the hell? Yeah, this may be too many pieces on the board for an operational game, too dense for my taste. And, you know, I like it when it's going smoothly, but when I have to deal with those aspects, it's not so cool. And playing it on Vassal would be pointless to me. So it's not really an option. It's why I shied away. There was a game showed at Consim World, some guy from the UK who had this thing with huge stacks of units. Every unit was the same strength. You know, this would all be fixed if it was just a pure strength point game, which is what I think it feels like anyway. You're allowed to kind of shake things up, combine them everywhere. Hey, make it all strength points, and make the foreign units, etc., be more distinguishable. Don't worry about your designations and all that, because in essence, it really is a strength point game, and that's kind of the problem. It could be handled that way better, I think. German attacks have been chosen to be made here. We're kind of trying to pull units back and replace them. And these have been mobile attacks, and here, which was successful, the other one was not, in an attempt to turn the flanks. So if they took this hex, they would have had the opposite sides, and, well, this would have still been defended. So it would just be slowly turning it. But here, the success is now they get to make an attack against this and negate the trench effect, which puts this just in the plains and makes it kind of a difficult space to hold. It's going to allow a second attack, a follow-up, to destroy the trenches there and shorten the line. And any thoughts I had of containment were kind of delusional. The Germans punched through here, driving the last little remnants of the British, the Anglo-French group that was there. That's going to lengthen their line or force them to pull back with the English. But the English are holding a defensive position that they didn't want to give up. Likewise, breakthrough here, not surprising where the trench line was, actually up here. This was the breakthrough they made. They're rolling it up so that the French are going to have to pull back from the river line there. Reims is in serious danger here. What else do we have? We succeeded in rolling up onto closer to Paris again. We're surrounding Paris, basically. I just don't want to spend the points on the artillery up here to get it down here so that I can spend more points on that. It's not an efficient use in my book. Of course, once the artillery, the artillery can fire and get rid of fortifications almost for free, and then you can march in. I'm also a little in question whether or not, I know I scored some of these. I don't know if I scored all of them. What is a hex side is not terribly well defined from what I can tell. So maybe I shouldn't have scored these demoralization points yet. Maybe control of a hex side means you have to have both sides of it. That kind of makes sense. And I think I already scored points for those. I haven't scored points for the city center though yet. And I'll try to remember that in that sense. I was thinking, oh, I got a hex side here, but I don't really control it if I don't have both sides, I think. So I think I screwed up there. Not a big deal. Anyway, it's looking pretty harsh for the Allies at this point. Just in terms, and you could say, well, it's the Belgians' fault. They're not in the line. Yeah, maybe. It's just a matter that you can't stop these offensives. I don't know how to. I could throw lots and lots of troops in, but I don't have lots and lots of troops. Maybe I didn't strip things off quickly enough. But if I had stripped faster from here, before the Germans did, I think I'd be losing territory here. In fact, I'm afraid that the Germans are going to attack here soon anyway. I don't see how to stop them there either. It's just really an ugly situation for the Allies. Anyway, I'll try to figure out where to put their troops and where to try to build a new line. It's beginning to look more and more like Paris is something I'm going to fall back from. I've lost most of that territory. Well, I discover I've been cheating in favor of the Allies as well. Both sides really, but more for the Allies' favor. The recombination rules state that neither the units recombining nor the headquarters can have moved. And I've kind of been shifting things around and funneling them through very quickly. Now that hasn't meant a lot for the Germans, to tell you the truth. In fact, there have been turns where they've been sitting around with replacement points because I couldn't pull stuff off the line easily. They're out right now, and there's actually extra strength points there. But, I've been just shifting my French up, converting them into regular units, and then they're in the line the next turn. That wouldn't be possible. I don't know. In fact, it looks like they can do it if they're in a zone of control type situation. So here, for example, I could convert units because I'd be placing them on the same turn that I convert them. A little disturbing there, but okay. Anyway, that's actually quicker than I've generally been doing it. I wanted to look up to see, hey, I really do kind of want to be on the line here. So I'm probably not going to fall this back. I'll let that create some extra troops on the line. Although, wait, that's an urban hex, not a city center. Oh, I don't know where I can bring reinforcements in. I got to look that up. Some of them come in on specific hexes, but after a certain point, they're just, hey, they show up at urban hexes, I think. I don't know. We'll see. Well, now that I know that rule, it feels like the Allies are pinched to the breaking point. I don't know what I can possibly do. Pull back behind this river. Basically, I'm opening up a gap and allowing the Germans into it. I really don't know what else to do here. It looks like they've driven a separation between the two armies. If I had that quick recuperation even, I don't think I could have filled this gap. I was thinking about the possibility of pushing armies down and making an attack on this unit with the British Army and seeing if I had enough force to hold the trench line and make that attack, but I would have been holding it with scraps, really, at best. I don't see much hope for the Allies at this point. I think this is about over for whatever value that is. I'm going to load this one up, and, well, we'll keep playing a bit longer, see where it goes, but it may get to the point where it's just pointless to continue. It's just, you know, not only too far from history because of errors that I've made or rules that have changed, or that it's just not interesting anymore. You know, what I'm not seeing the German attacks being slowed, and I don't feel like, other than the Belgians, and they are a serious oops, but that I hold the rule book accountable for them, you know, changing it in the living rules essentially to handle this kind of situation exactly, saying, well, that's no fun. I hold that to be the issue here, rather than me missing a rule like I did. The rules that I've missed actually feel like they've aided the Allies' situation a little bit. Anyway, it's an exercise, you know. All right, up it goes.